Lieutenant Castillo has arrived, and it is magnificent. We're up to episode 6 of Miami Vice, One-Eyed Jack, which was written by Alphonse Ruggiero and directed by Lee H. Katzin. It opens with Crockett and Tubbs trying to nail a dangerous and powerful bookie named Lombard, who is played by the late great Dennis Farina, star of Law & Order, Crime Story, and a million other things you've seen. Crockett has a personal investment in this. A former girlfriend, Barbara Caro, is in hock to Lombard's right-hand man, DeMarco, who is played by, of all the damn people, Joe Dallesandro, star of such Andy Warhol films as Flesh, Trash, and Heat. There is a verse in Lou Reed's Walk on the Wild Side about Joe Dallesandro, and here he is, playing a bookie on an episode of Miami Vice. As a favor to Barbara, Crockett approaches DeMarco to ask him to cut her some slack with her outstanding gambling debts. And he ruins a perfectly good cottage cheese and maraschino cherry salad while he's at it. We ate some terrible, terrible foods in 1984. DeMarco sets Crockett up and makes it appear that he's been taking bribes. Crockett is relieved of duty pending an investigation by Internal Affairs, led by smarmy agent Schroeder, played by popular character actor Dan Hedaya, who you have seen in everything from The Usual Suspects to Clueless to Mulholland Drive. Barbara turns up dead, killed by DeMarco on Lombard's order. Tubbs goes undercover as a bookie from Philadelphia and gets a job within Lombard's syndicate, where he immediately sets about pitting DeMarco and Lombard against each other while hanging out at some super glamorous nightclubs. Tubbs's plans are eventually ruined when Barbara's grieving husband unexpectedly murders DeMarco and Lombard gets off scot-free. Lombard will resurface on Miami Vice on other occasions, and I'm always happy to see him. All of this is pretty good, but it all pales in comparison to the best thing about this episode, which is the arrival of a magnificent new character, Lieutenant Martin Castillo, played by Edward James Olmos. I'm pretty good with words, but I don't think I have the language to describe what a change Castillo's arrival makes to the genetic makeup of this show. Tubbs describes Castillo as Charles Bronson by way of Havana, which doesn't do him justice. Castillo is very quiet and soft-spoken, and he rarely makes eye contact, and yet somehow he is the coolest, scariest, weirdest, bestest character on television. In Castillo's first scene, it's mentioned that he's 42, which is 3 years younger than I am now, which doesn't really seem possible. I don't care for that much, not just for the looming sense of my own mortality and the inexorable stampeding of time, but also because Castillo has this almost unearthly, world-weary sophistication to him that none of us will ever attain, no matter how old we live to be. Crockett and Tubbs initially butt heads with Castillo, which mostly consists of Crockett and Tubbs getting huffy and shouty, and Castillo muttering a few cutting words in a quiet voice while flashing his crazy eyes at them. When Schroeder starts harassing Crockett, Castillo disembowels Schroeder, metaphorically speaking, and kicks him out of his office with his tail between his legs, and my friends, it is splendid. Edward James Olmos won an Emmy for his portrayal of Castillo, and honestly, it's just a crime he didn't win one for every single season this show was on the air. Music in this episode includes Eric Clapton's Wonderful Tonight, which plays when a weary Crockett returns to his boat after his suspension to find Gina waiting for him, offering champagne, sympathy, and sex. I haven't discussed Gina much yet in these reviews, which is a shame because she is a wonderful character, and I promise I'll have a lot to say later on. The Pointer Sisters' Jump plays in Lombard's nightclub, where Tubbs whips out some breakdancing moves on the dance floor, and New Girl Now by Canadian rockers Honeymoon Suite plays while Crockett is cheerfully harassing DeMarco. It's been interesting rewatching these early episodes to do these reviews because those pre-Castillo episodes are pretty flat. This is not a standout episode by the standard Miami Vice will soon set for itself, but it was a genuine pleasure to revisit it. It has all of the elements in place that make this feel like the Miami Vice I fell in love with, and that's enough to make this our first Four Flamingo episode. That's about all I've got. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter to discuss this episode further. And otherwise, please join me next time in which we will meet a young, hot, and hairy Bruce Willis, and we'll discover he's a major dick. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you then.